What a Wild Spirit Brings by Lil, Chapter 55. As she lightly landed on the hill, she found the lake still frozen and still dark snow cast about everywhere. Not cold and not white, but still snow. Trixien was sitting in it, rolling it into balls at the foot of the hill. Lil snuck up on the preoccupied woman, and just when she was about to spook her, Trixien turned and yelled, "Ha!" Lil stumbled back and fell on her ass. Trixien laughed and jumped on her. Lil giggled as Trixien started pulling off her clothes. Relieved, Trixien was not angry. "You're not mad at me?" "Mad at you? For what?" "For being missing." Trixien snorted playfully and said, "You have your life and I have mine. It's none of my business what you've been doing. I knew you would come back. I knew you wouldn't be able to resist the pleasure for long." Lil frowned as Trixien returned to undressing her. She could remember when Trixien had followed, against request, trying to find her before. She didn't understand this complete disregard for her absence. If Trixien cared, she would have missed her, wouldn't she? "You did think of me." "Of course! I thought of new positions I'd like to try tonight," and the wild one replied, grinning mischievously. "But you missed my company?" Trixien was naked and almost had Lil bare as well, but stopped pulling off his stocking to look up, obviously puzzled. And Lil knew. Trixien was her lover, but Trixien was not in love with her. The shock of it hurt. Lil didn't think she had been in love with Trixien either, but the thought that the woman might be in love with her had been so comforting, so alluring, so wonderful. She realized she had been hoping that Trixien would prove to love her. She had been hoping for more. She had wanted more. There was more to being with a woman than mere intercourse. Trixien was frowning now, watching Lil's expression, but just when the wild one opened her mouth to say something, Lil sat up and kissed her nose. Trixien was pleased, relieved, and set about finishing the last bit of undressing. Lil let her. So they were lovers, but not in love. Could she really expect more? Perhaps Gimp had been right. Maybe she did think herself unlovable. Maybe that is why Lil let Trixien explore her body in new ways for hours. Perhaps that is why she swallowed down her grief that this was all they could have. Because this was the closest thing to having a wife who loved her she would ever know. After they parted ways, Trixien blowing her a kiss before dissolving into her puddle of water, Lil flew as swiftly as she could back toward the wailing tongues, mourning. She felt like she had attended her own funeral. Unlovable. She flew without tears, back to where she knew Gimp would be watching over her body. She missed her friend. She missed having someone to talk with. It felt like forever since she had been able to chat happily with Gimp. She finally found where they had been, her court awaiting her return, the large flat tiles pale and smooth, compared to the jagged surroundings. She dove in and woke up, immediately feeling weary. She realized she should have slept some real sleep, but the thought of making Gimp wait longer stalled her, and she opened her eyes. The Haldani was there, watching over her, as expected, but her red shirt was torn down the front, exposing half her breasts, and her face was smudged with dirt. Her hair was disheveled, and she looked very weary herself. Lil sat up and found Blaxian and the giants missing. "What happened? Where's everyone gone? I know I was gone a while, but I promise I hurried." "I am sure you did, Lil. They have returned to the cities of rivers to get help. Mitchin are here." Lil felt her throat clench and her heart beat quicken. Mitchan. People from the Isle of Wilders. It was said that anyone who went to the giant island to the southeast never returned again. But this was the northern end of the whole continent. What were Mitchan doing here? "I don't understand. Why would Mitchin be here?" "I don't know. They attacked us last night. They cast rays of light. It is said that men who could bend light made Sheolam. The Haldani have always had suspicions about whether it was the Mitchin or not. They made war with all other races of men. They care not for normal protocol, and we know little of them, but one thing they have always made known to all, that power is their ultimate goal, and power is the greatest thing there is. Who else could cause such an evil as Sheolam, but someone foolish enough to try to create some sort of ultimate power?" Lil shook her head. Light! What were they doing this far north? Maybe making another Sheolam? Is that why the animals of the Wailing Tongues were all fleeing the mountains? Was there another gray expanse of death and ash growing somewhere within them? Pictures of Kurik and Monsals pouring out from the tongues into the world like a flood made Lil stand up, facing the shards of rock towering ahead. She wouldn't let it happen. Her brother had enough to deal with without a second Sheolam. "Lil, you have been gone for 6 days. The others only left this morning, early. We should start after them. I alone remained, and only to watch over your body. Please, we should go to the City of Rivers." You should. I have work to do. Lil heard Gimp rise beside her, but kept her eyes on the mountains, searching for some hint of grey ash in the air amongst the spires. She felt a hand take one of her own. If you are staying, then so am I, little brave one. Lil finally turned to look at her companion. Gimp was wearing full confidence despite her ragged clothing. Lil wanted to hug her, but stood firm, solid as rocks, building up the tongues. She could face anything with a friend like Gimp. A thought suddenly occurred to her, and she asked, Mitten thinks I am part of some prophecy. Do you? Is that why you're always so loyal to me, Gimp? The Haldani seemed taken aback, and then said slowly, I had not considered that you might be the one. It does not matter. I am not here because of a prophecy. I am not even still here because of the task the power set out for me. And before she could finish, there was a flash of light in their peripheral. Lil turned to see huge streaks of light bursting in the sky above the mountains. Gigantic rays of light were colliding, erupting into clouds of aurora. The mountains seemed to tremble as the light cascaded down in flares, almost like fireworks, but larger, sharper, longer lasting. Lil might have lost her nerve to go tramping into the wailing tongues alone at that point, but could still feel Gimp's reassuring hand clasping her own, and felt the bravery everyone already thought she had swelling up in her. She started walking. Gimp let go of her hand, but followed, close behind.